All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 112, the last in our Kingdoms of Life series. Today we're looking at the animals and fungi. All right, so we've hit prokarya, we've looked at bacteria and archaeans, and we've hit the first two kingdoms of our eukarya, protist and plants. Now we're going to round it out with the animals and fungi. We're going to start with animals. All right, animals are eukaryotes, hence being in domain eukarya. And they have a very complex multicellular organization. Most of them have multiple tissue types and organs and so on. Now, the way animals, and this kind of defines the kingdom, get their energy is they have to go out, find food, ingest it, and extract energy from it. So lots of different ways to do this. You could be parasitic, you could be a predator like the lion, you could be an herbivore like the caterpillar or the zebra in this case. All right, some of the special attributes. Animals require oxygen to survive. Some bacteria and fungi and stuff don't. It's by far the most diverse group on the planet with about 1.5 million known species. So that means out of the 2 million known species of life, 75% of those are animals. And a lot of them, what a lot of people don't realize, are microscopic. Here's two of my favorite microscopic organisms or animals. We've got the copepod on the left there. We find those in aquatic environments. And we've got, by far probably the coolest, the tardigrade on the right, also known as the water bear or the moss piglet. And we will talk more about tardigrades in the future. All right, some other things. Some animals kind of superficially resemble plants, which means that people confuse them and don't realize they're animals. Here are some examples of those plant-resembling animals. We've got sea sponges, which have a variety of shapes. We've got corals, which sort of look like, kind of rocky plants. And then we've got animals that are actually moving around and they've camouflaged themselves and they've adapted to look like plants, like the sea dragon. All right, lots of animals have sort of shells or skeletons of some sort. This nautilus, for example, has a nice shell that's protecting its kind of soft body parts. The barnacle secretes calcium carbonate and makes a little home around itself as it attaches to wood and piers and ships and things like that. As humans, we have an internal skeleton. Some things like insects and lobsters and crabs, they have an exoskeleton or a skeleton on the outside of their body. Another unique thing to animals is that they specifically have the ability to move around to find food. Even sessile or stationary animals at some stage in their life actually are moving from one place to the other purposefully. Okay, lots of things like dandelions can move as they spread their seeds, but animals do it on purpose. Even simple animals like this jellyfish right here, it swims through the ocean. It doesn't necessarily have a goal, but it is actively propelling itself along. All right, and finally, animals have complex sensory organs that allow them to seek out food and move around and sort of know where they are in their environment. Eyes and antennas would be two examples. Here's some of my favorite sensory organs on organisms right here. The mantis shrimp in the top left there has an amazing set of eyes. The comet moth there has antennas for sensing different stimuli. And my favorite group of animals are the bats. Look at this long-eared bat. Those ears are specially designed to pick up their radar system. All right, now switching gears, let's look at the fungi. All right, fungi, of course, are eukaryotes, as all members of domain eukarya, and they are multicellular and complex. And I like to think of them as kind of like a little bit like a plant and a little bit like an animal. Here's the structure of a mushroom, just to show you how complex these are. They look like a fairly simple structure, but if we go underground, we find this network of strands and fibers that kind of all come together to produce the overall fungi. And these hyphae, these little strands, can be really, really complex and form this mycelium, kind of the body of the fungus. It kind of stretches out everything as it ingests food. Excuse me. The way fungi obtain energy is that they absorb food. So they don't have a mouth, they don't have a digestive system. As they break things down, They absorb those sort of organic chemicals across their cell walls. Here's a picture of a leaf being digested or decomposed by the mycelium or the hyphae. Those are those strandy pieces of a fungus. Some of the special attributes, and this is a really big one, is the kingdom fungi are a huge amount of our decomposers. So what decomposers do is they take dead stuff that would normally just kind of build up and collect and clog up our lives, and they decompose it, turn it back into soil. So it'd be really awful to walk through a forest that didn't have decomposers, because you would just be walking over mounds, piles and piles of dead vegetation that would never turn back into soil. Some of them are used for medicines. Big example there is penicillin. And there's about 70,000 known species, so it is a fairly diverse group. So the fungi include things like molds, mildews, and mushrooms. And finally, we use a lot of fungi for cooking, baking, and brewing. Yeast is probably one of our biggest allies in the kitchen. We use it in breads to help produce carbon dioxide, which makes our breads rise. We use it in brewing of things like wine and beer to produce the alcohol that people like to consume. All right, that's what we got for animals and fungi. Join us next for 113 Biological Classification.